Hey everybody, how you doing? Michael Wilkie from Aspire Health and Fitness. Thanks for joining us today. So this is episode 2 in the new video series we're doing where I'm interviewing different professionals out in the health and wellness industry. I'm here today with my good friend, Miss Candice Trudel, who owns Live Well Trudel. She's a holistic nutritionist. Thank you for joining me today. I certainly appreciate it. Always great to spend time with you. So a little background on Candice. She is a nutrition genius. I mean, the background on this young lady is super impressive. She started off in the laboratories at UMass Lowell. She then spent, I think, 7 years at the Mayo Clinic. You have more than 500 hours of training for yoga and some other things in there, as well as she's certified in Ayurveda, which we're going to spend some time with today. So hope you guys enjoyed today's conversation, and we'll talk to you guys later on. So Candice, thank you for joining me today. We talked a little bit before the interview today, and one of the things that I'm always fascinated about is learning about different approaches to nutrition and so on and so forth. Tell me a little bit about your approach.
So my approach is really taking everybody as an individual. I like to combine my background in Western nutrition with the holistic nutrition side of things, and then the Ayurvedic medicine. And that's what really makes everything different, because with Ayurveda, you get to see what the individual's constitution, is kind of a word I throw around all the time, right, is all about. And that can dictate what makes one thing a medicine for somebody, and for somebody else it may be, even a poison. It may not be the thing that's the most beneficial for them. Why one, lifestyle practice is good for somebody but not for somebody else. And so that's the approach that I take with everyone, is that everything is sprinkled in. It's not just you're going to come and have an Ayurvedic consultation with me. There's just going to be all of that, kind of combined together.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
No, it does. And so I know Ayurveda is one of those words out there. It's kind of a hot word out there, a buzzword in the health and fitness industry. I think a lot of people have heard it, but they don't know exactly what it is. Can you break it down into its simplest form?
So when things get really popular out in Los Angeles, they start to trickle their way out here. So my husband always says that I got in right before it got, big. So, so Ayurveda is just India's traditional system of medicine. So it's a lot like Chinese medicine in that there's a 5-element theory. So you have the 5 elements, air, ether, or space, fire, water, and earth. And these elements make up us as people. They make up the world around us, the food that we eat, the time of day, time of life, all these different things. And it's just a different distribution, proportion of these elements that makes you, and what makes me, what makes one food more beneficial for me and maybe not as much for you. So all of these things. So once you start seeing the elements present, you can't unsee them, and that's really what makes it, that's the basics of it. And then, you think opposites balance and like increases like. So you have the elements of fire and water, two opposites, so they balance each other out. If people have a lot of fire in their constitution, they tend to be really attracted to fire. So like increases like. So we're just always working on balancing the imbalances that I see.
Now dig a little deeper on that. When you say people who are attracted to fire, they have fire, you're talking specifically, and maybe I'm way off here, but maybe they prefer spicier foods or something like that. Okay.
That it could be a lifestyle, so things that are a little bit more fast and more outrageous, I guess, could be, so things that
like driving 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Gotcha. Right? So you see the fire present there, right? And so will it be somebody that's also more prone to having a temper? So if they're in that situation where they're going to lose their cool, and then they're also consuming all these things that have a lot of fire in them, they're doing all these activities that have a lot of fire in them, is it going to make them more or less likely to lose their cool? More, right? So you can offset some of those tendencies that we have by just choosing more appropriate foods and practices to, balance your particular person.
Sure. Obviously, it's well established here in America that our healthcare system has its challenges, and obviously we as a society are, vastly overweight compared to the rest of the world, and Candice outlined that a little bit in terms of the differences between Eastern medicine compared to our Western medicine. Is it fair to say that the way that you're raising your baby Leo, specifically around his health, his nutrition, is probably vastly different from what your parents did? And not that your parents were wrong. I think we're roughly the same age, but that's just the way it was back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, big time. I mean, I was literally just having this conversation with a colleague this morning, and how lucky I am to be having a child later in life, because I have all this experience now, whether it's, you know, through my trainings or just my own philosophies. It's nutrition, diet, whatever, food is everything. And so, you know, we were living in the, you know, boxed world, you know, snacks and
packaged
soda and all that. I don't know how many times I'm with clients, and when they say they drink soda, that actually surprises me now. You know, like, so I think things are changing, but yeah, I definitely instill those things in Leo. He is a great eater. He eats everything we do. Trying not to, like, just think, what does a kid's food look like, you know? I mean, because if we can eat it, they can eat it, you know? And we just make it sometimes a little bit more fun, but also if you don't make a big deal about it, I feel like it's even more attractive, you know? So far so good.
It's that fine line to tell them what they can't have and they want it even more, so let's just not even talk about it. So I have conversations with Candice regularly. I see her on almost a weekly basis, speak to her in some form or fashion, and one of the topics that usually comes up in conversation, believe it or not, is poop.
Believe it or not, many people will believe it.
Tell me about your fascination with poop.
Well, it's our message, right? So we get messages from the body all the time. Usually, you know, they're little whispers we just ignore, but you really can't ignore what's in the toilet. I mean, I guess some people can, they don't really look in there, but once you tell them, you know, to start paying attention to what your poop looks like, that gives you an insight into what your body is doing. And so that, your tongue and your poop are like two really great places to start. Not at the same time, but yeah.
I want to talk about the tongue in a second, but if you could, on a spectrum, so being, you know, 1 just absolutely horrible and 10 being the ideal poop, what are the examples that you give?
Say, Mike.
Give them the examples.
A nicely ripened banana is what we're all striving for.
That's your number 10 poop.
Yep. That's floating, so not sinking would be great. That's most ideal. Then there's a range. I wouldn't say that there's the worst kind. There's just different kinds. And so depending on your constitution, you'll have, you know, maybe more of a propensity to be prone to one versus another. So people that have, you know, certain elements in their constitution may be more prone to constipation. So like the dry pellety type, very hard to pass. And then other people may be prone to really loose stools, where you see a lot of undigested food in your stools and you're having multiple bowel movements a day. So both of those are not ideal. Both of those, you are not absorbing nutrients properly. And both of those, you're probably having some sort of toxin, you know, sort of build up in the system as well. So.
Yeah. So on that note, and kind of so one thing that I always want to make sure that our viewers can leave with is some type of tangible action, something that they can just implement into their life right away. When you're talking about, well, obviously we're being funny here a little bit about poop, but it is actually a very serious thing. If people are really, after this interview, if they really start looking in the toilet there and seeing what's going on, and they're not seeing, you know, a ripened banana, what are some simple things? Because as we both know, you know, everybody's different. You know, everybody needs different things. But just kind of basic across the board, what are some just simple adjustments people can make if they find that their poop isn't the right consistency?
So you can, you know, really start thinking about what you're putting into your mouth, right? I mean, it's not just that; it's the experiences that we have to digest as well. But digestion is everything. So some people might have a ton of stress in their life, and that's affecting their digestion. But if we're talking about what you're eating, you know, you'll just want to eat things that are closer to what they look like coming out of the ground. You know, closer to the outer perimeter edge in the supermarket.
In the grocery store.
Yeah.
Nothing in a box.
Yeah, I mean, every now and then. But read the ingredients. If you don't know how to pronounce them, it's not food. If it's sitting on the shelf and it's shelf stable for like a month or longer, is that food? You know, the bread aisle, like that should be going bad in a week. You know, that's not bread. You know, so things like that. So, you know, processed sugars and processed vegetable oils are really the two of the hardest things for our body to digest. So if you can get rid of those two things, you're kind of golden. And then if you want to boost your digestion, just look in your spice cabinet. That's your first, you know, medicine cabinet. So you can boost digestion just by adding, you know, fresh ginger into some foods, or
apple cider vinegar.
Yeah, well, see, on that line, some people think that that's like such a great thing for everybody. But if you have a lot of fire in your constitution, vinegars are very acidic, so they will be a little bit too much for some people. Okay.
One thing that you had referenced before was the tongue, and I know you've talked about that before. Tongue scraping.
Yes.
Tell them about that.
So everyone I work with knows what tongue scraping is. It's the first thing that you do, first thing in the morning. It looks like a U-shaped, so it's not like the wand.
It's a device.
It's either stainless steel or copper. This is used in Ayurvedic medicine as part of your daily practice, your lifestyle practices. But literally, upon rising, this is what you do. You're going to scrape the tongue from the back of the tongue forward until the tongue is clear. And so that's helping to stimulate the vagus nerve, which is running all over our body, right, and in the nervous system. It's helping to release different digestive enzymes, so it stimulates that right away. And it's eliminating toxins that build up on the tongue overnight. So things that don't go in the toilet sometimes show up on the tongue. And when you start looking at the tongue and the film that comes on in the morning, and if you start noticing that the film is really thick and maybe it's white in color, maybe mucousy looking or something like that, you know that your digestion is more sluggish and you're probably going to see similar things in the toilet. If you notice that your bowel movements are looking closer to that ripened banana, you'll notice that the film on the tongue is a lot clearer and thinner. So those two go hand in hand together.
Excellent. And you practice that every morning.
Oh, yeah.
Right on. Good for you. Good for you. So before you and I started this interview, we had discussed the challenges that some folks may have as far as starting a program and then staying locked into that program, whether they're working with us as professionals, with their coach, or just out on their own. What are some, I have my strategies that I have in place for my clients on both the nutrition as well as the exercise and everything else that I'm doing. What are some of the strategies that you use, not only in your own life, because even though we're professionals, it's still, we're still humans, and it's hard to stay on track sometimes. What are some things that you implement in your own life or that you recommend for your clients as far as if they feel they start off strong with their nutrition, but then they kind of just peter out, whether it's a couple days, couple weeks, even a couple of months. When they get into what I call the dog days of it, it's kind of becoming tedious. What are some things that you recommend your clients doing, or just people out there in the world?
So this is where, I like to implement a lot of the different areas of specialty that I have. I usually don't just give people like some dietary recommendations. I'll give them some things that they're doing on the lifestyle side of things as well, So if it's the stresses of things that we need to address, we might do a breathing exercise or maybe some different yoga postures or something like that. But truly it's just, baby steps and just reminding, little by little, and just keep moving in that forward direction. I think that people see the proof in the pudding, when you can get back and see where you are when you started to versus where, you are at the time too. That's always a great sort of recollection.
Reinforcement.
Yeah. And, I don't really like to chase my clients. Like, I want them to be invested in when we start, we're both investing our time and our money together, and I'm kind of, I'm there as their cheerleader the whole time too. So, really trying to implement, meeting every other week is a great thing to do too, to really keep that, accountability as well, and just leaving myself open for questions. So we have a lot of connection via email and even text actually. So yeah.
Easy way to communicate right there. So, well, I appreciate this. What I'd like to do now is give you the opportunity to tell the folks about some of the new stuff you have going on, your new kind of an extension of your Live Well Trudel. Give them your social media, your website address, all those types of things.
So beyond my Live Well Nutrition and Ayurveda business, I am now opening a health center with two other partners. And we are opening what's called Healthy Roots Integrative Wellness Center. It's going to be located in Hudson, New Hampshire. We are actually signing the lease like today as we speak. So finally all of that stuff feels really great to announce too. So this is great timing. But I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to just be an extension of what I do, and we're going to bring in together a lot of other complementary wellness practitioners. We're going to have space to practice yoga, other different movement, practices like qigong, and you name it. We want to have as many things that can help our clients get to achieving their goals as possible. And we really have just such a unified mission that it feels really good. So you can find me through my business and now through my second business. So if you just look up Live Well Nutrition and Ayurveda, I'm on Facebook as Candice Trudel. I'm also on Instagram, and then Healthy Roots NH, you'll find us for the Wellness Center as well.
And real quick, tell them about your cooking show that you're doing.
Oh, yeah. So Cooking with Can, hashtag Cooking with Can. I don't know how long I was saying £. Yeah, I'm definitely,
£. I love it.
Yeah, so that's Wednesdays at 5, and it feels good, so I'm just going to keep doing it. But
Thanks for joining us today, guys. I hope you found value in today's conversation with Candice. If you guys have any questions for me, please feel free to reach out to me at my email address, michael@aspirehealthandfitness.com.